It's 7:38 on a Saturday of the Weekend Morning Show. My name is Bruce Ladan. Nadia Kidwai is away this weekend. And Keith Macpherson is a Winnipeg singer-songwriter who's found musical success as one half of the award-winning duo Keith and Renee. He's also a solo performer who makes music in his own right, and he's just released a new CD of music called Shine. But Keith has much more on his plate than just music. He's a public speaker, a life coach. He's even created his own brand of yoga. Who does that? And he's writing a book. Keith believes that you can find balance, peace, wisdom, and health by being mindful. And he's here today. And I know I said Keith Macpherson. It's Keith Macpherson. I've known that for years. Good morning, Keith.
Good morning.
So tell me, you've just completed a new album with a bit of a twist. Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, this is an album I've been working on over the last 5 years. It's my first solo album after playing music for 20 years in the industry. And it's quite a vulnerable piece of music for me. So I'm really excited and a little bit nervous putting it out into the world. Because,
why?
Well, it's just so vulnerable. I've played in a duo, Keith and Renee, for the last 20 years. So this is really the first time in my life that I've recorded something that really, I mean, I'm the one and only on this album, and it just feels quite vulnerable. I tried to make this record from that place of vulnerability.
And for 20 years as a musician, your first solo CD still makes you feel like you're just kind of sticking your neck out there and starting out?
This feels like starting all over again, I'll be honest, Bruce, because I had to dig deep to write these songs, and I didn't want to do the same thing I'd been doing for 20 years.
Right,
so
a different approach to songwriting.
It definitely was.
Like how?
Well, some of these songs went all the way back like 10 years ago when I was going through a major breakup in my life with this girl that cheated on me 3 times, and I kept taking her back.
Good heavens.
I look back now, that was one of my greatest teachers in my life. She taught me what it means to truly love myself and say, no more of that.
It is horrible, though, isn't it?
It is. It is horrible at the time. So, I mean, I went through this heartbreak, and so that was the beginning of the writing of this album. But through the span of time, I also ended up meeting the love of my life and got engaged while making this record, and now married. So this album has a full range from breakup to marriage to hopefully new beginnings now. And it's I wrote as truthfully as I could.
Full circle.
Full circle.
And you're a quick mover there. You met someone, and how soon did you get married?
That was quite a long span of time. It was like 10-year span. So I broke up with the first woman.
Right.
I took 2.5 years off of dating and did some serious soul searching, where a lot of the songs on this album came from, and emerged on the other side and put myself back out there. And it's been a vulnerable journey. That'd be the word to describe this whole process, is vulnerability.
And a connection, like really getting to know your insides. Like you're big into yoga, like I said. You've even got your own sort of style.
That's right.
What do you call it?
It's called CoActive yoga, and it's based on a type of life coaching that I also do. It's in North America, we're so driven, getting tight abs and all the muscles, and I noticed people were coming into the yoga studio. It was still on this kind of task list of doing and checkbox. I did my yoga, and really the thing that was missing, in my opinion, was the beingness. How am I being while I'm doing this practice?
The paying attention, right?
Yeah, so CoActive yoga is all about finding balance in the being and the doing.
But you passed on one particular detail that you told me earlier, that you lost your voice.
Yes, I did.
At some point.
I did. While making this album, I did. It was unbelievable. I'm a big believer that our mind and body are so connected.
Right.
And often our mind is so busy over talking, overthinking, that we don't actually pick up the cues from our body until things get, serious. And for me, in the middle of making this album, I lost my voice. And I look back now.
Overnight? Was it just?
It just kind of fizzled out.
Right.
So when we came to do the vocal tracks, I couldn't do them. And what was so interesting about that was, when I think back to it, I think there was a real fear of putting myself out there more vulnerably and taking the masks off. And my body hadn't caught up to what my mind wanted to do.
Right.
So there was a real healing process, and we had to take 6 months off from this recording, which was really frustrating at the time. And came back around and recorded it, and my voice came back.
Was it just time, or were there vocal exercises or anything you had to do? Or?
There was. Well, I went and got it looked at, and apparently I was dealing with acid reflux, which a lot of singers actually have. I think that this was eating away at me for so long, like literally eating away at me, that it was like burning inside, and it affected my voice. It was like, hey, are you going to do this or not? So I had to make a decision and step up to the plate and get in front of that mic and sing as honestly as I could.
And well, you mentioned the mind and body connection. How much of your career is still about music? I mean, you're into so many other things.
I think of my whole life as a song. I'll be honest.
Really?
Yeah, I do. It's all connected.
Right.
I've really transitioned into the wellness community, and I'm a big advocate of mindfulness practice. As you know, I have a new book that's going to be coming out in November called Making Sense of Mindfulness.
Right. You brought one in.
So I spend the majority of my time actually giving keynotes and also working one-on-one with people, helping them to connect to the present moment, helping them to tap into that soul and live truthfully. So I incorporate music as much as I can into this practice, but it's
you'll even do music in your yoga.
I do. Yeah. I always bring a guitar in and serenade my students.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I just happened to, you brought your book in. It's called Making Sense of Mindfulness. It's not out for a little while yet. This is an advanced copy. And I just happened to open up to a page that says, and there are no coincidences, expose the saboteur.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's principle 2 of Making Sense of Mindfulness. And
what does that mean to you?
Well, Carl Jung first deemed this term saboteur.
Right.
It's the part of us, the inner critic in our mind, the self-sabotaging part of us. And so often we tend to not live in the present moment. We're in fear mode.
Right.
One of the acronyms for fear that I found while researching this book was false evidence appearing real. Most of what we actually fear and worry about doesn't even manifest in our real life.
Never actually happens.
It doesn't.
It's like a full-time job.
It's exactly. They've done scientific studies on this at Harvard, and 75% of the people they've tracked that said, I'm worrying about this, at the end report that it didn't even happen. And the 25% margin that did said it wasn't as scary as they thought it was going to be. Yet we spend all this time in the saboteur, and so often we don't even realize we have these sabotaging self-doubt thoughts coming up in our head. So one of the propositions in this book is to actually put it out there and go, okay, I have a saboteur going on here, and name it and expose it. Because when we name that, it no longer has control over us. We come back to the present moment and we can make a decision.
What set you on this path?
On the mindfulness path?
Yeah.
Wow. Well, I was on tour with Renee for years, and one of the things that got me through all this hardcore touring was Wayne Dyer, this motivational speaker.
Right.
And I used to listen to Wayne Dyer tapes on tour. And they call him the father of motivation, and I really believe he is. And he got me on this path, just listening to his work and his talks, and just his motivating spirit really moved me into this place of mindfulness and the connection to music.
So it really, it kind of changed your life.
Oh, Wayne Dyer was one of the biggest mentors in my life for sure. Him and Louise Hay, who started Hay House, they both are huge mentors of mine. Wayne passed away back in 2012, and I just feel so driven to carry on that legacy that he started.
I could talk to you about this for a long time, but we're kind of running short. So I'll ask you, if somebody's feeling overwhelmed now or disconnected, or maybe they're acting in a way that they know isn't healthy for them, what's something that they can do that maybe incorporates more mindfulness going forward?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, one of the ways I find most helpful is that there's a good chance if you're feeling disconnected that you're not here in the present moment. You've left the building in your mind. You're worrying about other things. So there's a process called anchoring that I often suggest, and it's the practice of literally pausing in the moment you notice you're stressed out or disconnected. Close your eyes and just start focusing, narrowing down the focus of your mind to your breathing. And literally, you just start watching your breath spill in and spill out. And as you start connecting to that constant anchor of your breath, you'll feel your shoulders start dropping. You'll feel yourself coming into the moment. And an extension of that would be to take your hand, place it on your heart center, and instead of your mind constantly chatting, invite your mind to ask your heart the question, what do you truly want from me right now? And when you listen to your heart at that level, without your mind racing, the wisdom comes through our intuition, our intuitive heart. And so really just in the moment, pausing, getting your hand on your heart, taking a few breaths, and going inward and asking yourself, what do I need right now? What's my truth right now? What's best for me right now?
And don't be afraid to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you're letting your saboteur win, really.
Okay, we've run out of time, but I want to play a song from this new album. You want to hear Shine. What's that song mean to you?
Yeah, well, this song actually was written while on tour with Jan Arden. I had one of the worst reviews of my life when I was on tour with Renee in Calgary. And the next day, Jan came into the dressing room and said, never let somebody bring you down like that. That's one person's opinion. And I've already called this guy and reamed him out and said, these guys are just starting out their career. How dare you write an article like that about them? And I was so inspired by that, and it just reminded me, don't let the naysayers get you down. Stand in your truth. So this song is all about letting it shine, literally.
Jan Arden went to bat for you. She's a tough cookie anyway, though.
She is.
Well, Keith, thanks very much. This has been very informative. And when your book finally launches in November, well, maybe we'll get you back in here.
That would be great. Thank you.
Awesome. Keith Macpherson is a public speaker, life coach, musician, and author. His new CD is called Shine. Here's the title track.
There's a famous constellation hiding above the clouds. There's a man on the moon, you can't see him there, but you know he's looking down. When you're lost and feeling empty, like a stranger in the dark, somewhere deep inside of you is a radiant spark. You're a diamond